Hello everyone and welcome to the 2016 Ford Ecoboost 400 at Homestead Miami Speedway race review, where I recap what went on before the race, during the race, and after the race, looking ahead to the upcoming race. So, overall thoughts on this race. I really like this race, and that is a biased answer just because my favorite driver won the championship, but outside of the battle for the championship, I thought that the racing was pretty good. It was hard sometimes to really get into the actual racing, just because this was the championship setting race. NBC focused a lot of time on the championship war, not as much time as the race itself. But when they did show the racing, it was pretty good. There were a couple of good battles for the lead, where the leaders actually traded the lead back and forth. I can remember Kevin Harvick and Carl Edwards early in the race. Then Carl Edwards and Kyle Larson traded the lead for a couple times at around the midway point of the race. And when they did show mid-pack battles, for example, late in the race, the battle for what was at the time the championship between Carl Edwards and Kyle Busch for second, that was a pretty good battle that lasted for a couple laps. Homestead is just pretty much the perfect track. Multiple grooves, worn out surface, tires wear out incredibly fast. I really wish there were more tracks like that, and I hope that Homestead does not get repaved anytime soon. It's just great. Outside of the racing, this was pretty much a historic race. I think when this decade is over and we look back on the top or just most memorable moments of NASCAR in this decade, I think we'll look back at this race as one of them. And I think that mostly has to do with who won the championship. The champion was Jimmie Johnson. Championship number 7. He is now tied with Dale Earnhardt Sr., Richard Petty, 2 Hall of Famers and 2 of the all-time greats in NASCAR. Here are my final pre-race notes that I wrote down leading up to this weekend. I read an article that NASCAR is considering more 2-day weekends in the future. So, for example, it would just be a Saturday and Sunday. Instead of the usual Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for daytime races. NASCAR already has 2-day weekends for Saturday night races, and I feel like now, and I think especially since there are going to be a lot more later start times, I could see it working. Sometimes I kind of wish that NASCAR, would run like a practice session, like a few hours. Like a practice or a qualifying session a few hours before the race. Greg Galding will run, or I believe he will run a full-time. He will run full-time in the Spec Cup Series for the Motorsports Group, or in other words, the 30 car. This year it was occupied by Josh Wise, so I guess that means Josh Wise will be searching for a ride next year. And I can understand this move from a sponsorship perspective, because Greg Galding definitely does bring money and sponsorships to a team that certainly needs it. Josh Wise has not been able to do that. Phoenix International Raceway. Renovations for that track will start next year and be completed in 2018. In case you don't know, what they're planning on doing is that they plan on moving the start-finish line to what is currently just past turn number 2. They would also modify the pit road a little bit, move the grandstands from what is right now the front stretch to the present back stretch. And also modify pit road, add a couple extra garage sections. There will be more parking. The Victory Lane will also probably look better. And you can actually look up on the internet, like the plans, in like a PDF file of what the track will likely look like when the changes are completed. I'm not a huge fan of the changes, and this is coming from someone who has been to PIR 16 times, including this most recent Sprint Cup race last week. So that's my thoughts on that. Levine Family Racing, who operates the 95 car full-time and then a part-time deal in the 59 car, has officially bought a charter from Tommy Baldwin Racing, which runs the 7 car. Tommy Baldwin also said that this year will be the last year they will run full-time in the Sprint Cup Series. So good news for Levine family racing. Bad news for Tony Baldwin racing. Regan Smith will also be looking for a ride next year. Michael McDowell is expected to run in the 95, I believe, full time, or maybe it will continue to be shared between Michael McDowell and Ty Dillon. Practice. Ryan Newman was the fastest in opening practice. Johnson was fastest in second practice. Truex was the fastest in final practice. The championship four and coming into this race: Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, and Jimmie Johnson. And in qualifying, Kevin Harvick won the pole. He was eliminated after Phoenix. The first time Harvick has ever been eliminated since this new format of the chase has been around. Where did the four chasers start? Well, Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards started 8th and 9th. Joey Logano started 13th. Jimmie Johnson started 14th. Looking back at this race, about the first 80 to 90% of the race, it was pretty calm. There weren't a whole lot of cautions. And the chase drama, certainly there wasn't a whole lot of chase drama. I would say that, like, the earliest chase implications took place around the midway point of the race when Kyle Busch made an unscheduled pit stop because he thought he had a flat tire even though he didn't. That got him off sequence with the rest of the leaders, but thankfully he got a look caution when I believe Ryan Blaney hit the wall, and so he was able to get back on cycle, and then with about 15 laps to go, Carl Edwards he was leading the rest of the chasers, and had the caution not come out, he was pretty much on his way to winning his first career championship. But then the caution came out with about 15 laps to go. NBC showed Dylan Lepton's car. It had a flat left rear tire. Some people said that the caution was a BS caution. I don't really agree with these people. I mean, when I saw one of the replays, Dylan Lepton's left rear tire shredded, and he was on the racing surface. And I don't really find anything BS about that. But with this caution set us up for a restart. Everyone took 4 tires. Kyle Larson was the leader. Carl Edwards was second. Logano was third. Kevin Harvick fourth. Jimmie Johnson fifth. Kyle Busch sixth. And, well, let me show you what happened. Joey Logano gets a good restart. Carl Edwards tries to block, and that happened. Okay, fine. Man, I really wish the camera did not cut there, but you pretty much get the point. A huge melee that ended up that brought the end to Carl Edwards' chase hopes. And several drivers took some hard hits, like Martrix Jr., whose car then caught on fire. And certainly watching this live, I just really cannot believe what I saw. I almost thought Carl Edwards was going to go upside down for a second because his car got jacked off the ground when he went back across the racetrack, and Casey Kane just plowed into him. And really, who's to blame for the incident? I don't really think anyone is to blame. Carl Edwards is trying to defend his position because he knows that if Joey Logano gets by him, his championship is probably over, because Carl Edwards showed throughout the race that he had a better car on the longer runs. Logano, for Logano, it was the opposite. He had a really good short run car, and so Logano knew he had to pass Edwards if he wanted to win the championship. So really, with the championships on the line, can you really blame Carl Edwards for trying to throw a big block on Joey Logano? Can you blame Joey Logano for trying to pass Edwards? I don't really think you can. Here's another replay of it. Yeah, and there we go. That's the full replay of it. So frankly, I don't really think there's really anyone to blame. Winning races and championships is not an easy task in NASCAR, and coping with losing, I'm sure, is not easy either. But Carl Edwards showed a ton of class and sportsmanship after such a tough, or shall I say, heartbreaking defeat after getting involved in a multi-car crash. In case you didn't know what Carl Edwards did, let me tell you. Instead of riding in the ambulance, he walked. He walked alongside this track safety worker and decided to, he decided to go to the 22 pit box. And Joe Legan is the driver of the 22 car. In the past, we often see drivers or pickers go over to other pit boxes, usually angry and upset. But Carl Edwards went over to the pit box and actually told the team that he accepted the responsibility for the wreck, and actually even I think he even wished them good luck, and then walked to the infield care center, which is mandatory. I think that was just great, and really it really made me happy, and actually I wouldn't say that and I think now I am definitely a fan of Carl Edwards. I think that's inspiring, and I think frankly he's also a good role model. And even though even though I did feel bad about him losing after having such a great car, and this is now the 4th time that he's gone to Homestead and came up short. I think the class and sportsmanship that he showed is a highlight that I think all of us can look at and feel had. And I think Carl Edwards definitely does deserve a round of applause. When the final checker flag of the season flew, history was made. Jimmie Johnson won his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup Series title. Only 2 other drivers have won 7 Sprint Cup Series championships: Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. And the last driver, and when Dale Earnhardt won his 7th title, it was back in 1994. So it's been 22 years. And so now both of those drivers have won a ton of races and are both in the Hall of Fame. And so really, that's why this race for the most part I think was a historical race. And how did Jimmie Johnson do this? Well, after the multi-car pileup that involved championship contender Carl Edwards, it moved Jimmie Johnson up a couple positions, and then on the second to last restart, he got a really good restart and moved up to I believe 2nd. It was his best restart up to that point, and then on the final restart, he used the side draft to get by Kyle Larson, and was able to hold him off and won the race. This is also his first win ever at Homestead. So now I believe he only has Watkinsville in Kentucky and Chicagoland as the only tracks he's never won at in the Sprint Cup Series. And Jimmie Johnson throughout most of the race was actually the lowest running chaser. He spent most of the race around 10th, but then as the sun went down and the 48 team continued to make the right adjustments, his car got better and better and was able to take advantage of those mistakes, which is something we often see out of Jimmie Johnson. Not very good car early in the race, but then his car gets better and better and better as the race goes on, and he's able to capitalize and get a really good finish, or sometimes win. And I think one thing that makes Jimmie Johnson winning this championship amazing is just how, especially during the summer portion of the season, the entire 48 team was struggling. It was like mediocre performances around, consistently outside the top 10, or just simply a lot of bad luck. I remember at Richmond, he was running 20th throughout a lot of the race, and it wasn't because he had a problem. It was that was just how good his car was. And I remember thinking, my God, my God, how did this team become so bad? He's not going to win a championship like this. And this is coming from someone who is a Jimmie Johnson fan. But ever since the chase started, the team has flipped the switch. They won Charlotte and moved past the round of 12 for the first time. Won at Martinsville. That's how they got into the Final Four, and now they're champions. Also, this win, this is his 5th win of the season. So Jimmie Johnson was able to break himself out of a tie between Kyle Busch, Mike Kozlowski, and Mark Jr. as for most wins, and now he has that category all to himself. And whether you love him or not, there's no denying that what Jimmie Johnson and the entire 48 team have been able to do has been, remarkable. 7 championships, 80 wins, and I think we can continue to expect Jimmie Johnson to perform at a high level for the foreseeable future. He's 41, and we've seen drivers race into their 50s. So don't think that this is the last we've seen out of Jimmie Johnson. Before Jimmie Johnson won his 7th title, people were already making comparisons of him to Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. But now that he's won 7 titles, it has joined those two. Those comparisons have been brought back up. And is it fair to compare him, or more specifically his 7 titles, to Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 7 titles? In my opinion, the answer is no. And for a couple of different reasons. First of all, Jimmie Johnson's time period in the sport, it's a different era than Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s time periods. The level of competition was different. Some of the tracks were different. The schedule was different. But I think most importantly, the championship format was different. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. won their 7 titles under a format where you had to score the most points. But under the chase, but in the chase era, where Johnson has won all of his 7 titles, you don't have to score the most points. There have been some seasons where if there weren't a chase, Johnson would have been the champion anyway, because he did score the most points. But not in all of Johnson's 7 championship seasons did he score the most points. There have only been 3 seasons where he did that: 2006, 2009, and 2013. And so because of that, that's why, even as a Jimmie Johnson fan, I'm not going to say that his 7 titles are equal to Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 7 titles. However, like I've said, you can't really deny what Jimmie Johnson has been able to accomplish, and I think he will still be one of, and I think he still is, and will be known as one of the all-time greats in NASCAR long after he retires from racing. Just like every other season, we say our goodbyes to someone or something, and here are a couple that I was able to come up with. Thank you, Tony Stewart, for all the memories for over the past 2 decades, not only just in NASCAR, but also in open wheel, and enjoy the next chapter of your life. Tony Stewart will continue to race on dirt and in midgets. And he'll still be at the racetrack. He just won't be driving a car anymore. So he'll still be an owner. He will also continue to own Eldora Speedway. Brian Scott a couple of weeks ago said that he will retire from full-time racing or just NASCAR or just racing period, to spend more time with his family. So I definitely wish him the best with that. This race was also Sprint's last as the title sponsor. They were formerly Nextel. This deal started all the way back in 2004. So this was their 13th and final year. Next year's title sponsor has yet to have been announced, but hopefully it will be pretty soon. There have been talks about, it could be Kroger, it could be Monster Energy. Also, last race for Stewart-Haas Racing and Chevys. They announced all the way back in February that they will go to Fords next year. This race could also be Greenville's last race for Jack Roush. About a month ago, there were rumors that he might go drive a second JTG Dari race car, and there are probably other things that I just can't think of that are also not going to be around next year. Before this video ends, I would like to just give a couple other highlights as the season has officially concluded. I want to give a shout out to Michael McDowell. He finished 10th, and this is in a Levine family racing car, and this is not only, I think this is his first top 10 on a non-play track. I think it's also the team's first top 10 on a non-play track, and this was not a total fluke. I know a lot of good cars got taken out in the multi-car pilot, but Michael McDowell was running around the 15th throughout much of the race. So this was not a total fluke. And frankly, it wouldn't be surprising, and I think it'd be cool if this can continue going into next year. Also, I want to point out that Toyota also won its first ever manufacturers championship in the Sprint Cup Series, breaking a long streak that Chevrolet had since 2003. Ford was the last non-Chevy manufacturer to win that title back in 2002. So Toyota, which had one hell of a year, it won 16 of the 36 races. Didn't win the championship, but still a remarkable year for them. And now fine. I guess I should say this. In his final start, Brian Scott finished 15th. In Tony Stewart's final start, he finished 22nd. Okay, so let me wrap things up. So, like I said in the beginning, I think it was a historical race, one that's going to be remembered for a number of reasons. Tony Stewart's last race, Sprint's last race as the title sponsor, and most notably, Jimmie Johnson winning his 7th championship, tying Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. And personally, I think a night that many of us are going to remember for years to come. And I think the race was also a pretty good way to cap off a season that has been definitely better than what we've seen over the past few, or maybe I should even say several years. The racing was definitely better. I think in NASCAR for the rules package this year, the competition I think was also a little bit better. There were so many newer faces that were challenging up front for wins on a weekly basis that we had not really seen before over the past few years. So I think that was a cool. And overall, I would say good season, in my opinion. Certainly, I will admit that the sport is still in a hole, and I wish that NASCAR CEO Ryan France would stop acting like everything is fine. But I think if there is, there were definitely many good moments this season, and I think something that will hopefully continue going into next year. Thank you all for watching all of these race reviews. I really appreciate it. I know I haven't really uploaded a whole lot of content outside of race reviews and diecast reviews this year. Hopefully, now that NASCAR's into the off season, I can now start exploring some of that. I'm considering gaming and a couple other things, so stay tuned for that. There will at least be something. I'm definitely not gonna take the next 2 months off. I definitely want to continue to make videos. And so thank you all for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and bye.